بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا من سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله أما بعد فإن أصدق الحديث كتاب الله وخير الهدي هدي محمد صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم وشر الأمور محدثاتها وكل محدثة بدعة وكل بدعة ضلالة وكل ضلالة في النار. After praising Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and sending immense greetings and salutations upon the final Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam, we come to the end of our journey, the journey of the human being, the journey of the soul, the journey that every single individual needs to make or to take. As we find inside the Quran, كُلُّ نَفْسٍ دَاعِقَةُ الْمَوْتِ, every single soul will taste death, which has been mentioned in 3 separate locations inside the Quran. Firstly, inside Surah Al-Imran, some verse 180 or so. Then again in Surah Al-Anbiya. Then again in Surah Al-Ankabut, the 29th chapter of the Quran. And thus all of us have to taste the sweetness or the bitterness of death and that return journey back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then in that return, or that journey back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we either have to face the elements or the return back into paradise, because that is the original abode of the human being. Because we know that living on this dunya, وَلَكُمْ فِي الْأَرْضِ مُسْتَقَرٌ وَمَتَاعٌ إِلَى حِينٍ, you're only here for a short span of time, and we have to return back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The real abode is the hereafter for the individual. We were living in paradise, or our father Adam alayhi salam was residing in paradise, and then because of that sin or that mistake that we find, he was expelled from paradise and brought down upon this earth. Thus the human being, the soul, yearns to return back to the akhirah, to return back to the real home, which is paradise. But unfortunately for some of us, we may not go back to paradise. We may go back to the opposite. And thus the whole theme of opposites that you find is a deep theme to ponder and to reflect upon. A sunnatul kawniyah, the sunnah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala around the universe around us, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has placed certain elements, whether it be concepts of senses and feelings that you find of being happy or sad, cold and warm, the sun and the moon, the land, the oceans, etc. that we find. It's all this concept of zawjain, pairs, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created everything in pairs. The animal kingdom, the plant kingdom, the human race, male and female. وَمِن كُلِّ شَيْءٍ خَلَقْنَا زَوْجَيْنِ لَعَلَّكُمْ تَذَكَّرُونَ. Place everything in pairs that you may reflect upon that. And even manhajul Quran, the methodology of the Quran that you find, is one of following in a theme of pairs. The Quran is بَيْنَ الْوَعْدِ وَالْوَعِيدِ, between strong admonition, warning, and a promise of felicity and bliss and goodness. The Quran is بين البشير ونذير, between giving you glad tidings and warning you. The Quran is بين الترغيب وترهيب. The Quran is between giving you encouragement and likewise discouraging you from certain actions. So that's the role of the Quran. Likewise the role of the Prophet Muhammad was to come with that same pattern, that same methodology, that we sent you as a witness, as a testimony upon mankind. As we find inside the Quran, يَا أَيُّهَا النَّبِيُّ إِنَّا أَرْسَلْنَاكَ شَاهِدًا وَمُبَشِّرًا وَنَذِيرًا. We sent you as a witness, and likewise one who's giving the bushra, the glad tidings, and one who is warning humanity as well. Other locations that we find inside the Quran, وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَاكَ إِلَّا كَافَةً لِلنَّاسِ بَشِيرًا وَنَذِيرًا وَلَكِنَّ أَكْثَرَ النَّاسِ لَا يَعْلَمُونَ. We did not send you except for as a warner, to warn the people and likewise to give them the glad tidings. So that becomes the sunnah of the Prophet Muhammad as well. And thus the akhirah becomes that same pattern as well. Just like in the dunya, as-sira' bayn al-kufri wal-iman, the battle between disbelief and iman, between good and evil, even though there has to be a distinction. قُلْ لَا يَسْتَوِي الْخَبِيثُ وَالطَّيِّبُ وَلَوْ أَعْجَبَكَ كَثْرَةُ الْخَبِيثِ. good things are not going to be like the impure things. It's going to be a distinction. And likewise, kufr is not going to be like Iman. But ulama write that these opposites exist because through opposites you recognize the truth. If there was no kufr on the planet, you would not recognize true Iman and the halawatul Iman. If there wasn't disbelievers, you wouldn't really appreciate the concept of being a mu'min, a believer. So that's whatever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala creates is there. Hikmatullahi baligha. That means wisdom of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That even the creation of the devil, of shaitan, of Iblis, or Lucifer that we find, there's a reason that he's been created. To see which of us are going to follow the traps and the snares of the devil, and those of us who are going to abstain and try to follow that path towards paradise. So that becomes the two opposites inside the akhirah. It becomes أما شقي أو سعيد فريق في الجنة وفريق في النار. That's how simple it is. The Quran describes it. A group that will be inside hellfire and a group that will be inside paradise. There will be a wretched group and there will be a rejoicing group. So as Muslims, we need to begin to think and weigh up that which group are we trying to follow? What is our end destination going to be? And that's the Quran mentions, that talking about the first time it mentions the concept of maut. وَإِنَّمَا تُوَفَّوْنَ أُجُورَكُمْ يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ فَمَنْ زُحْزِحَ عَنِ النَّارِ وَأُدْخِلَ الْجَنَّةَ فَقَدْ فَازَ وَمَا الْحَيَاةُ الدُّنْيَا إِلَّا مَتَاعُ الْغُرُورِ. Whoever on that day of judgment, you find that on the day of judgment you'll be brought forth to accountability the actions that you've done in this world. Full reward, full recompense will be given to you. And whoever is saved from the hellfire and thrown into paradise, فَقَدْ فَازَ. That is the most successful individual. وَمَا الْحَيَاةُ الدُّنْيَا إِلَّا مَتَاعُ الْغُرُورِ. What is this world except for a great big deception? That's what this world is. The world has been created as a form of deception to see whether you're going to live up to the test. And that's you find in the hadith in the Sahih of Imam Muslim, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created paradise. Jibreel alayhi salam, when he saw paradise, saw the glitter, the glamour, the beauty, said whoever sees it just want to dive straight into paradise. And whoever sees Jahannam want to abstain from Jahannam. And thus Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said that cover paradise with obstacles and cover Jahannam with temptations. حُفَّتِ الْجَنَّةُ بِالْمَكَارِحِ وَحُفَّتِ النَّارُ بِالشَّهَوَاتِ. So paradise is covered with obstacles and hellfire is covered with temptations. Every single path of temptation, any action of temptation leads you towards the path of Jahannam. Any temptation, any sin, any vice will eventually lead you to travel the path of the journey towards Jahannam. And likewise, any goodness, path of bir, of khair, leads you towards paradise. But obviously there's going to be obstacles. Imam An-Nawawi explained his hadith in his sharh of the Sahih of Imam Muslim, highlights what is the meaning that paradise is surrounded by obstacles, because many of us think we're just going to stroll into paradise. There's no struggle, there's no devotion, there's no commitment. When the Quran is replete with so many ayat, those who believe and do righteous actions. هذا عقيدة أهل السنة. This is the belief of Ahl Sunnah. Iman and righteous actions. It's not just a concept that I believe, as some of us Muslims may think that as long as you just say I believe. It's far deeper than that. Real belief of Ahl Sunnah is that that belief begins to profess, begin to be shown, begins to be implemented, that you're trying to live a life of a believer. That's the other concept of faith that you find around us, that I'm a Christian or I'm a Jew, whatever it may be. It's a personal relationship. That's what some Muslims are falling into, that Islam is a personal relationship. It's not a personal relationship. Inside your heart, when you're standing in prayer, it's a personal relationship. But coming to the masjid is a testimony of faith. Whoever visits the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala frequently, testify that person has Iman. Man salla bardain, dakhala al-jannah. Whoever offers the two cold prayers enters paradise. The two cold prayers being Salatul Fajr and Salatul Isha. Read through all the hadith in great detail. What do you find? Wajabat lahu al-jannah, adman lahu fil jannah, lahu al-jannah, ghurisat lahu fil jannah, lahu fil jannah. Person will have in paradise, will be given in paradise, promised in paradise, planted in paradise, I guarantee for him in paradise. Study all those hadith. And all of them, what do you find? Action. All of them you find action. Study them in great detail. All of them are linked that you do this, paradise. You do this, you get paradise. Control what's between your two jaws and between your two legs. Adman lahu. I guarantee for him a place in paradise. Words of the Prophet Muhammad. Even if you dissect this hadith in today's language and understand it, you find the average Muslim youth can't control his private parts. The average Muslim who even claims to know about Islam can't control his tongue. Ghiba, min al-kaba'ir. Backbiting, brothers, isn't a minor sin. Min al-kaba'ir, amongst the major sins. Amongst the major sins. And some of us take it something trivial. Qila wa qal, this and that, and speak ill about people. That's in the Muslim world. You know, there's a great bigger politics exists in the Muslim world. Obviously, they can't disclose in this arena at this stage. But it exists. And the other half of the Muslim globe that you find, the Muslim youth, can't control themselves. So he was able to control that small amount of flesh in both areas, guaranteed paradise. Action, life of perseverance, of control, of commitment. Thus Imam Nawawi highlighting that those obstacles that surround paradise are what? Firstly, he highlights ijtihad fil ibadat, striving in actions of obedience. The Fajr prayer, the 5 daily prayers, Salatul Isha, coming to Jum'ah, fasting Ramadan, performing Hajj. How many Muslims do we find at this stage? Talking about great big causes, etc. Come to Salatul Fajr. Simple question, ask them. Muslims get so excited. Tahriq al-isba' fi tashahud. How fast to move the finger in tashahud. How to do raful yadayn. How to say ta'min khalf al-imam. Wallahi, these are the only things we've been stigmatized with. That's the only thing that we know. Is that all the da'wah of the sunnah is? Is that all that we know? Sallu kama ra'aytumuni usalli, the hadith in Bukhari, or kama qala sallallahu alaihi wasallam, pray as you see me praying. That becomes a mi'yar, that becomes a symbol. That's the only symbol that we know. That as long as you do these certain actions, you're qualified as a person of sunnah. Kalla. Total misunderstanding. You make a critique of those people, but those elderly individuals come to Salatul Fajr, you find them there. You find them there, and where are those young youth who are talking about the return of Islam, the renaissance of Islam, the resurgence of Islam? Salatul Fajr, where do you find them? Sleeping in their beds. That's a reality. Great dreams, but can't even stroll out of their bed and come to the masjid. And they talk about big achievements. That's how you weigh up the state of the Muslim Ummah. Travel through the Muslim Ummah. Come into Salatul Fajr, and you'll see what the state of the Muslim Ummah is. Sleeping. That's the real state of the Muslim Ummah. Stagnation. The Muslim Ummah revolves around spirituality. Remember that in great detail. Obviously, there's other elements that we need, but spirituality is the main cause. We don't fight with weaponry or power or force. That's just a side element. The real power and the force of the believer is his devotion towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So if people are not even punctual in the 5 daily prayers and they're talking about high obstacles or high achievements, they've misunderstood Islam. Because even in the realms inside Surah An-Naseeha, even the state of jihad that you find, the Quran still says to the believers that one group should be leading and one group should be standing behind, and then they swap positions. This is a station of fighting the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And here we find trivial things. I'm moving from this location to that location, combine my prayers, skip my prayers, shorten my prayers, going to university, going here, going there. The first thing in the Hadith Tabrani, أول ما يحاسب نفس العبد يوم القيامة, the first thing the abd will be asked about the day of judgment is his prayer. Khalas. Not about other things. That's the first thing all of us will be asked about. If that has been rectified, everything else will become successful. Sifatul Mu'mineen, characteristics of the believers inside Surah Al-Mu'minun, the 23rd chapter of the Quran. قَدْ أَفْلَحَ الْمُؤْمِنُونَ الَّذِينَ هُمْ فِي صَلَاتِهِمْ خَاشِعُونَ. Simple, that's the characteristics of the believers. Many times inside the Quran, those who guard their prayers, preserve their prayers, worried about their prayers. Guard your prayers. حَافِظُوا لَلصَّلَوَاتِ وَالصَّلَاةِ الْوُسْطَى وَقُومُوا لِلَّهِ قَانِتِينَ. Guard your prayers, and especially the middle prayer. قَوْلُ الرَّاجِحِ وَالصَّلَاةُ الْعَصْرِ. Guard the middle prayer. In hadith we find whoever misses the middle prayer, the late afternoon prayer, is that they've lost their whole, their wealth, all of their family. But we find it trivial. And we talk about other elements. That's the first path to paradise. To be worried about that. Secondly, Imam Nawawi mentions Qadmul Ghayb, to swallow one's anger. How many Muslims you find are able to swallow their anger? Whoever debates with a person, whoever goes into an argument with a person, and you know that you are correct. You know that you're correct, but you refuse to carry an argument with a person, you restrain yourself, that person is guaranteed a place in paradise, a house in paradise. But when we're debating with someone, we just have to make sure we get the message across. You've just missed your house in paradise. You've missed it. You've missed it. And sometimes you could be debating and you are wrong. But you want to carry on debating just to send home the message. So swallowing one's anger is a characteristic of the powerful person to go into paradise. Thirdly, al-afu, pardoning people. That's something we've forgotten from the sunnah of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. To overlook people's mistakes, to pardon them, not to question them about it. Anas ibn Malik narrates, قَدَمْتُ النَّبِيَّ صَلَّى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وَسَلَّمَ عَشْرَ سِنِينَ. I served him for 10 years. 10 years. In that 10-year period, he never said to me, why do you do that? Why didn't you do it like that? Why don't you do it like this? تصوروا هذا. 10 سنين, 10 years. We don't have sabr with a person for 10 minutes. For 10 minutes we don't have sabr with a person. He had 10 years of being in the suhbah of the companionship of the Prophet. He never saw anything. Never questioned about what he done. Could have been doing it wrong. No problem. Forgiveness, to pardon humanity. Something we forgotten. That is a path to paradise. Fourthly, we find as-sabr an ash-shahawat. To control yourself from temptations which are presented in front of you. Any path of temptation that comes in front of you, have sabr, patience, to not fall into temptations. Because we mentioned temptations are a path that leads you towards Jahannam. So this is all the path that a person needs to begin to think upon. That in this journey upon this world, that I need to begin to follow the path of the people of paradise. If I want to become amongst the people of paradise, or to have the final abode of entering into paradise. And as we know that the Quran, as we began, has that fine balance. That ayat which talk about the rahmah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, كَتَبَ رَبُّكُمْ عَلَى نَفْسِهِ الرَّحْمَةِ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has written it upon himself, he's going to be merciful. A lot of Muslims, they sway towards that. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is Ghafoor Rahim. No problem, I've done this, I've done that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will forgive me. But look at the tawazun. At the same time, you find many of those ayat which talk about the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَهُوَ شَدِيدُ الْعِقَابِ. He's severe in punishment. Stern and harsh. Those ayat, then we begin to miss them. Ayatul Zajar, Ayatul Adab. Verses of punishment. Verses of warning, severe warning. So we need to balance it out. Not just go towards the compassionate side and then begin to become neglectful of our actions. So that's why we need to find that balance, focusing upon both ayat. That's the Prophet Muhammad mentioned. If you knew what I knew, لَضَحِكْتُمْ قَلِيلًا وَلَبَكَيْتُمْ كَثِيرًا. If you knew what I knew, you would laugh seldom. You would hardly ever laugh. And you'd weep often. Because remember, the Prophet Muhammad visualized both paradise and he visualized the hellfire. He made that journey through them. And even whilst he was on the earth, paradise was exposed to him and he went forward to grab a bunch of grapes or the fruit that was presented in front of him. In this dunya was shown to him. Likewise you find the Isra, the night journey that he made. And then he took a step back. And the companions asked him, "You done a strange action today." He said, "The reason I went forward is because I wanted to grab some of the fruit of paradise presented to me right in front of me. And when I went back, a strand of fire was being presented in front of me, so I went back trying to avoid the fire." So he mentioned that I've got that certainty about the return of paradise and the punishment. And as you find, وَاسْتَقِمْ كَمَا أُمِرْ. The verses at Surah Hud that we find in the 11th chapter of the Quran. And even you read the signs of this surah, and he's mentioned شَيِّبَتْنِ هُودٌ وَأَخَوَاتُهَا. This surah, 11th surah, and other the sister surahs you find, has made my hair go grey. Study these surahs, what you find inside them. Talk about ayat of adab, of punishment, return to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Imam Suyuti in his tafsir al-Durr al-Manthur highlights, after this verse came down, وَاسْتَقِمْ كَمَا أُمِرْ. Remain steadfast as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has commanded you to do so. فَمَا رُؤِيَ ضَاحِكًا sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Was never seen laughing in his life ever again. Never seen laughing again. When the command came to remain steadfast. And when the Prophet Muhammad would laugh, he would just smile, or very rarely would open his mouth. Today we laugh with our mouths fully open like donkeys. That's what we do, laugh like donkeys, like animals. Because life for many of us has become enjoyment. For many of us Muslims, that's all that life is about. As long as I can enjoy myself, and then somehow I just make some form of intercession. You know, the concept of intercession exists inside the Sharia, but it's quite restricted and quite unique. It's not as many of us think that I say, Ya Rasulullah, I'm going to stroll into paradise. That's nothing but Catholicism. That's what Catholics believe. That's what Christians believe. That Saint Michael, Saint Peter, Saint Andrew, all these people, they intercede for me. These are peers, that's what they are. They make me get into paradise. That's Catholicism. May sound harsh, and that is the reality what many Muslims believe today as well, unfortunately. That this, ask any non-Muslim to become a Muslim, ask them. They left that life. They left Catholicism because they don't want to go through these intermediaries. We as Muslims follow exactly the same pattern. That this so-and-so individual is my ticket to paradise. You think I may be exaggerating? There's people out there who flamboyantly, openly say, give me £10,000, I guarantee you a place in paradise. Openly say, they don't even conceal it anymore. They openly say, you give me money, I guarantee you a place in paradise. Well, why don't you firstly guarantee your own place in paradise? Guarantee your own place in paradise before you try to guarantee someone else a place in paradise. And on the day of judgment, we'll see where your place is inside paradise. If it really is inside paradise. But many of us Muslims want to follow that path. That my priority, وَلَا تَزِرُ وَازِرَةٌ وِزْرَ أُخْرَى. No individual carries the burden of another individual. That's Christianity once again. Christ died for our sins. The Prophet Muhammad died for our sins. He died for our sins. He's going to intercede for me. I'm a Muslim, full stop. I don't need to live a life of action. I don't need to do anything. He died for my sins. He's going to intercede for me. Does that make sense? You do whatever you want to do in your life. Commit all types of haram actions in your life. And just because I have a Muslim name, I'm in the ummah of the Prophet Muhammad, he's going to intercede for me or going to paradise. Is that your shallow understanding of Islam? So we are just, all of us are wasting our time of banging our heads down on the floor. That's what we're doing. We're wasting our time. That's what the aqidah, that's what that belief teaches us. You're wasting your time, brothers. Because you're not on the path to paradise. This praying, this fasting, all this is just waste of time. You may as well live a life of haram, and the Prophet will just intercede for you, finish, and you go into paradise. That's what this aqidah is. That's what this belief is. The path to paradise is a path of struggle. أَلَا إِنَّ سِلْأَةَ اللَّهِ غَالِيَةٌ. The commodity of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is expensive. That expensive commodity is paradise. One has to struggle for paradise. One wants to go back into paradise and eat the food, the drink, the clothing. Study the ahadith in great detail once again. Whichever man wears silk in this world will not wear the silk of the akhirah. Whatever man wears gold in this world will not wear gold inside the akhirah. Whoever drinks the wine of this world will not drink the wine of the akhirah. Abstinence. That's what it is, teaching us abstinence. You want the pure things inside the akhirah, you have to abstain from inside this dunya. But the pure things inside the akhirah is going to be sharaban tahura, a pure wine, a pure drink. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala lays out the parable of the 4 different types of rivers that will be there. The pure water, the pure honey, the pure milk, the pure wine. But even the Prophet took the natural fitrah. When from paradise the pure wine and the milk was offered to him, he picked up the goblet of milk, the natural fitrah. Lest someone may come in his dunya and say the Prophet, whilst he was here, it was presented to him, he took the chandelier of wine, so he's allowed to drink wine. But he took the pure substance. So inside the akhirah, the food that you find inside the akhirah, that we place there given to the believers, وَتُوبِهِ مُتَشَابِهَا. You're going to be given those things that share the same names of this dunya. But inside the akhirah, it changes entity, it changes form, changes into something else. Every time you bite the apple, the tufah, what it may be towards our language, our understanding, change color, change taste. Throw the core, and what happens? Returns back to the apple and goes back to the tree. You eat the meat, lahman tariya, fresh tender meat, pure meat. Tastes different, tastes beautiful every occasion. All given to people inside paradise. Because of the actions that they should do, they'll be given that reward inside the akhirah towards these individuals. And thus you find, أَعْدَدْتُ لِعِبَادِيَ الصَّالِحِينَ مَا لَا عَيْنٌ رَأَتْ وَلَا أُذُنٌ سَمِعَتْ وَلَا خَطَرَ عَلَى قَلْبِ بَشَرٍ. I have prepared for my servants what no eye has seen, what no ear has heard, and the feeling and perception not come in the heart of any human being. What is that preparation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Compare the preparation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, even though there is no comparison, over what we've been asked to do. What have we been asked to do in reality in this world? a few simple, basic, elementary actions. That's what we've been asked to do, and look at what the reward is. The reward is immense. The reward is unbelievable. What the person is given in return for the meagerly actions that we do is multiplied many times over when we're given so much. But we don't seem to understand that. We're thinking that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is asking too much from us. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us so many opportunities to get into paradise. So many times, so many moments, so many days of reflection. Even the hardship that you find is really a mercy. It's just that it may seem, the zahir is adab, but the internal is rahmah, is compassion. Because it's maybe trying to bring you closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, make you begin to reflect. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants that opportunity for every single individual to earn their way into paradise. But you become so arrogant, so turning away from that path, that you want to miss that opportunity. You want to miss the bliss. The hadith inside Sahih Muslim that we find, that the believer who lived that life of enjoying 50, 60 years, of doing whatever haram they wanted to do, one small dip inside Jahannam. هل رأيت نعيما قط؟ هل مر بك نعمة قط? Did you ever see anything good in your life? Did you have any blessings in your life? You know, this person would say, no. The believer living a life of not much, not having much of this dunya, whatever it may be, hardship, calamity, oppression, one small dip in paradise. هل رأيت بؤسا قط؟ هل مر بك شدة قط? Did you ever see any adversity? Did any hardship come upon you? One small dip in paradise. And he, the believer, will say, no. A small whip in paradise. You know, a whip, you lash an animal with, one strand of that is better than the dunya and whatever it contains. 2 rak'ah, 2 units of prayer before Salatul Subh, before Salatul Fajr. That 2 sunnah that you find. You know, always we go into a technical debate. Is it recommended? Is it not recommended? If it's a sunnah, I'm going to do it. If it's not, I'm going to leave it. Like, that's why we fall into this trap. Even people reviving the sunnah as well. If it's only a sunnah, no problem. Go and understand, if you want to be in a journey towards paradise, 2 sunnahs before paradise, 2 sunnahs before Salatul Fajr, خَيْرٌ مِنَ الدُّنْيَا وَمَا فِيهَا. Full stop. Don't take me into technical discussion. Don't take me into a technical path. That's what we become, always technical. The hadith is quite clear. Those 2 units of prayer is better than the dunya and whatever it contains. So you don't care what someone comes and says to you, well, it's only sunnah and Shafi'i fiqh is this, Hanbali fiqh is this, or if you walked in and this, that and the other. You're on the path to paradise. You're not going to get involved in these aqwal. That's the one thing that's destroyed that shabab. That's one thing that destroyed that shabab. That you find even the revival of Sahwat al-Islamiyah. What's the biggest aib they say upon us? You don't even pray any sunnah. You said that you're going to go and pray them at home. Outside you're standing for another hour. You come back and it's asr time. So where's sunnah? Where did you pray your sunnah? Whoever prays 12 sunnahs in a day. 12 sunnahs in a day. 2 before Fajr. 4 before Dhuhr. 2 after Dhuhr. 2 after Maghrib. 2 after Salat al-Isha. What's for that individual? What's for that individual? A house in paradise. Fi ikhtilaf now? What do our shabab do? Read their prayer, walk out, finish. We know they don't go and pray their sunnah inside the home. Or they're reviving that sunnah. But you know why? Because the vision towards paradise is weak. It's an academic vision. It's a vision of academia, of rhetoric, of speech. The real vision towards akhirah, the person knows the academic side, but is traveling a journey that these things are not going to distract me. Monday and Thursday, gates of paradise are swung open. I want to fast on those days. I want to fast on those days. Is the way of the Prophet Muhammad. But then once again, it's only sunnah. Many times there are always questions, it's only sunnah. Or people go into the concept, it's only a minor sin. It's only a saghira, it's only a minor sin. Read the works of the fuqaha. Al-istimrar bis-sagha'ir tusbih min al-kaba'ir. Continuous habitual practice of a minor sin becomes a major sin. If you continuously do it, it becomes a major sin. And it's another thing that destroyed many people. It's only a minor sin. Talking to a girl, well, it's not haram. It's only a minor sin, so I talk to a girl.
What eventually happens to most people who talk to girls? As the Arab Sha'ir, the poet, he wrote, أولا ابتسام أو أولا النظر, first a glance, ثم ابتسام, ثم الضحك, first a glance, then the smile, then the laugh, then the contact, then the numbers, then the meeting, and then you know what the rest of the story is. So what does it begin from, isn't it? What did it begin from? That's what you find, that the glance is the poison arrow of the devil. It goes bang straight into your heart. So what does the Quran say? وَلَا تَقْرَبُوا الزِّنَا إِنَّهُ كَانَ فَاحِشَةً وَسَاءَ سَبِيلًا. وَلَا تَقْرَبُوا الزِّنَا. Quran doesn't say وَلَا تَفْعَلُوا الزِّنَا. Quran doesn't say don't commit zina. It said وَلَا تَقْرَبُوا الزِّنَا. Don't go near zina. And you're trying to classify it as a minor sin? Hadith in Muslim, al-aynu tazni. The eye commits zina. And the zina of the eye is the looking. The ears commit zina. The mouth commits zina. The hand commits zina. And then the private parts testify to that complete zina. It all begins from a small thing, doesn't it? And it becomes something great big. So we shouldn't fall into the trap to think, oh, it's only something minor. Because remember also, likewise in the path towards paradise, whoever does an atom's weight of good will see it. And whoever does an atom's weight of evil will see it. That small atom's weight of good may be that small action that you need to just somehow drift into paradise. لا تحقرن من المعروف شيئا. Don't despise any small action, any good action. You have any opportunity to do good action, do it with sincerity, because that may be that one small action that just weighs your scale and just swings you into paradise. Look at, study the ahadith, we talk about the branches of faith. The highest branch of faith is what? قَوْلُ لَا إِلَهَ إِلَّا اللَّهِ. The lowest is what? إِمَاتَةُ الْأَذَى عَنِ الطَّرِيقِ. To remove a harmful obstacle away from the street. It's a branch of Iman. To just remove something with the correct intention, remove something like, remove the stone, remove an obstacle that's blocking a Muslim's path, a non-Muslim's path. That's a sign of Iman. That small action, that sincerity, could lead you into paradise. But obviously we don't want to think like that, do we? We're somehow thinking of bigger things. And these smaller things just drift by us. And likewise, that small evil action, that one small evil action could just lead you towards Jahannam. And if you go and study Kitab al-Jannah wa Sifatu Na'imiha inside the Sahih of Imam Muslim, towards the end that you find, beautiful ahadith talking about the bliss, the blessings in paradise, the shade of the tree, the size of the tree, how even a swift rider will ride underneath the tree. 100 years of riding swiftly, he still can't cross the shade. Still cannot cross the shade. Is the size of a tree inside paradise. Even the last man, or the least rewardful individual, the man in paradise, study what the reward will be given to him. You know, because the nature of the human being is always to ask for more and more. So he's going to say to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you know, bring me close to this one tree. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to say that, you know, you're going to ask for something else. He said, I'm not going to ask for anything else. Comes to that one tree, after a short while, he's going to say, Ya Rabb, let me come to that next tree. Did you not say you're not going to ask for something else? He's going to come to the next tree. Say, I want to go to the next tree. I can hear now the sounds of the people of paradise. Bring me next to the gates of paradise. And then he's going to say eventually, let me go into paradise. But you said you didn't want something else. Request what you want. Whatever you want and you desire inside your heart. وَمِثْلُهُ 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 10 times over. Are you trying to make a mockery out of me, Ya Rab? Are you making a joke out of me? Last man in paradise. 10 times the world and whatever it contains and more given to this individual. Imagine that. Didn't do much in this world possibly, but look at the immense reward given inside the akhirah for that individual. The lush pavilions, the palaces that you find, place for the individual. You could see the tent, study the ahadith, Kitabul Jannah, Sifatu Na'imiha. The ground, the marble, the sand, everything is so unique, so special that's there. But we're losing that conviction. The Quran begins with الَّذِينَ يُؤْمِنُونَ بِالْغَيْبِ. Believers are those who believe in the unseen. So the more murky your vision of the unseen is, the more murky your actions will become. The more stronger your vision is towards the akhirah and towards the unseen, the more stronger your actions will become. Just like you find if you study the science of a horse that's running in a race, you find why do you think it wears those blind spots or those folds to cover the side of its eyes? Because the minute or the second, the minute of a second it glances to the horse next to it, it will lose that simple inch. And that's the parable of a believer. The believer just needs to keep focused straight towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَأَنَّ هَذَا صِرَاطِ مُسْتَقِيمًا فَاتَّبِعُوهُ. It's a long path to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And you need to remain steadfast and committed in that path. Yes, at times, as we mentioned, the hadith is makari, or the explanation by Imam Nawawi is difficult. There's obstacles. This is difficult to come out in the morning. But that is the test of Iman. It's difficult to profess your faith. That is the test of Iman. Alif lam mim hasib an-nas wa yutraku an yaqulu amanna wa hum la yuftanun. Do you think you're just going to say, I believe, and you're not going to be tested? We did test those people before you to find out those individuals who are the liars and those who are the truthful. So that's going to be part of Islam. You become a Muslim, there's going to be a struggle. Every single human being goes through a struggle in their life. Non-Muslims go through struggles, don't they? Work commitments, life commitments, family commitments. It's all there. So how comes they can begin to override and live up to the struggles that they go through? And when it comes to our struggle or our devotion, we begin to diminish and wither away. So to set right that journey back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, one needs to focus upon their heart. And at the same time, be fearful. يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا قُوا أَنفُسَكُمْ وَأَهْلِيكُمْ نَارًا. Save yourselves and save your family members from the fire, whose fuel is men and stones. Stern angels standing over there, guarding the fire. Some people will be thrown inside that fire. A stern punishment that you find. If you begin to study the realm of Jahannam that you find. Various names inside the Quran. Jahim, Saqar. Even Saqar that you find. مَا سَلَكَكُمْ فِي سَقَرٍ. What made you end up going into Jahannam inside Saqar? قَالُوا لَمْ نَكُ مِنَ الْمُصَلِّينَ. We never used to pray. We never used to pray. That is a path that leads you to Jahannam. وَلَمْ نَكُ نُطْعِمُ الْمِسْكِينَ. We never used to feed the poor. وَكُنَّا نُكَذِّبُ بِيَوْمِ الدِّينِ وَكُنَّا نَخُوضُ مَعَ الْخَائِضِينَ. We used to be wasting our time with the people wasting their time. We used to reject the deen. And we used to, until what? حَتَّى أَتَانَ الْيَقِينَ. Until the certainty came to us, death came to us. It's too late now. Now a person is going to be dragged on their way, heading towards the hellfire. And we know that the hellfire has been heated for 1,000 years and heated again till eventually the hellfire has become black. You know, people, sometimes Muslims they say, they say some funny thing, Shaykh, I'll do a few things and I'll burn for a short while in Jahannam and then I'll stroll into paradise. Go home to British Gas and switch it on and put your hand there for more than a minute. Isn't it? That's what you're trying to say. You're trying to play games, aren't you? That I'll burn for a short while and I'll make it and I'll go into paradise. So go and burn yourself then for a short while. And you think you can take the heat of the akhirah? So every single Muslim is finding the swiftest way to get into paradise, to avoid that punishment. Study the ayat inside the Quran. Every time we burn them, we roast their skins and bring about a new skin. Skin specialists have proven that what you feel the pain is your skin carries the pain, the senses of feeling the pain. And thus every time the skin is burnt, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala places a new skin and burns you again. Kalla innaha lavha. Another name of Jahannam that you find, lavha. Lavha means that the fire goes all the way deep down into your skull. La tubqi wa la tadhar. Does not let anyone get away. Has no remorse for any individual. As you find, that is the punishment. That once a person is thrown inside Jahannam, that a person will be inside the pillars that you find. If you study the tafsir of Surah Al-Humazah that you find, the small surah that we read on a daily basis, inshallah, you find, look and study those ayat that ulama, Imam Ibn Kathir and Ibn Rajab al-Hanbali mentions, talking about the concept of Jahannam. That when a person is thrown inside Jahannam, that you find that bolts are placed, places like Jahannam, then bolts are placed, vaults are placed. Mufassirun highlight a long vault, a long pole is placed. Because if it's a short bolt, it will burn quickly. But a long bolt keeps the doors of Jahannam sealed and you're burning inside. The heat is more excessive for the individual. There's a torture inside there to the individuals when they're placed inside Jahannam. Thus you find a mass portion of the world, a mass portion of the human race are traveling on their way towards Jahannam. And thus they want everyone to travel along with them. That's the human nature. When a person, even when they're doing wrong, psychologically, they want people to join them, to make them feel good. That's what they want. So that's this society, and in general, whatever, even Muslim society as well, who are going towards a path of evil and wrong, they want everyone to join them, to feel exactly the same. That's what they, I mean, sometimes these foolish individuals, even these heavy metal band, if you study their path of the devil, what they belong to, they even talk about that we're going to have a big party in Jahannam. That's their foolishness. That even when we go to hell, we'll have a big party in hell as well. But that's their understanding that it may be just some walk through hell, it may be, or something easy. But a Muslim has that yaqeen, that certainly begins to think. That's what Abdullah ibn Mas'ud, he mentioned that, the munafiq, the hypocrite, the person who doesn't really care much about their deen, when they commit a sin or something happens, they see it like a fly on the tip of their nose, just brush it aside. Al-mu'min, the believer, when they do something, sees it like a mountain on top of their head about to collapse upon them. Reflects upon it. A person gets worried. That's why Ibn Qayyim al-Jawziyah, he highlights some strange words at times classified as Tabibul Qalb, the doctor of the heart. The most famous student of Ibn Taymiyyah, rahmatullahi alayh. If you read his works about tazkiyah, you marvel at his words at times. He writes some strange words. رُبَّ مَعْصِيَةٍ تَجُرُّكَ إِلَى الطَّاعَةِ وَرُبَّ طَاعَةٍ يَجُرُّكَ إِلَى مَعْصِيَةٍ. Perhaps disobedience can take you to obedience. And perhaps obedience can take you to disobedience. The first part is quite clear. That when a person feels remorseful for their sins, as you find the hadith in Sunan of Ibn Majah, إِنَّ النَّدَمْ هُوَ التَّوْبَةِ. When you feel regret, that is tawbah. You feel that inside your heart, that this is the wrong path. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sometimes right deep down inside your place inside your heart. No matter what takes place around you, is the one who takes you out the realms of the darkness and brings you to the light. Just because you may see a brother on the street in a bad state, doing haram, doing fawahish, doing muharramat, in your heart, you should be thanking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Ya Rabbi, thank you that I'm not on that path. There's no need to curse and revile him. Because if that comes into your heart and you become arrogant, then that arrogance takes you towards Jahannam. And remember what led Iblis into Jahannam. What led him to Jahannam was his pride and his arrogance. The first sin that was committed in the heavens is pride, is arrogance, al-kibr. قَالَ أَنَا خَيْرٌ مِّنْهُ خَلَقْتَنِي مِنْ نَارٍ وَخَلَقْتَهُ مِنْ طِينٍ. I'm better than him. Created me from fire, created him from clay. Why should I bow down to Adam? أَبَى وَاسْتَكْبَرَ وَكَانَ مِنَ الْكَافِرِينَ. Refused, became arrogant, and became amongst the disbelievers. Ya ikhwan, we're just your brothers. That's what we are. We're the brothers together carrying on the same journey. That's why you said the hadith of Safina, the hadith of the ship. We're all traveling in one great big ship. Some of us is the admiral, one person's the captain, one person's the cook, some of us on the deck, scrubbing, cleaning, whatever it may be. We're all together. And that's why you find that one day the people in the lower deck, they said, we have to go all the way upstairs and we have to go and collect the water. Why don't we just drill a hole right here rather than disturbing them and just extract the water ourselves? And we all know what happens. They drown and everyone drowns. And if they're saved, everyone's saved. You are a reflection of us. That's what all Muslims are. So if you drown, we're drowning with you. Drowning with you, because if sin and vice becomes a common practice, then even righteous people will be taken as well. And as opposed to the Prophet Muhammad, that will people be destroyed? Will people be destroyed? Yes, they will be destroyed. If khabuth, if filth and corruption becomes the normality, then even the righteous people will go with them. Righteous people will go as well. All of them will be taken together. So all of us, and some of us may be even asked on the Day of Judgment, so what steps did you take to help your community? What steps did you take to show them that this is the path of paradise? Obviously, no one can take someone to paradise, but someone can help. We can all help each other to highlight that this is the path of paradise, because we've been told, أَلَمْ نَجْعَلْ لَهُ عَيْنَيْنِ وَلِسَانًا وَشَفَتَيْنِ وَهَدَيْنَهُ النَّجْدَيْنِ. Have we not given you 2 eyes? Have we not given you 2 lips? Have we not given you a tongue to express yourself? And likewise, have we not shown you the 2 paths? Just like with your eyes, you can begin to see obstacles and hardships and calamities and destruction. With your tongue you can taste, your mouth you can taste something bitter, something sweet, something awful, something off. It's all there, isn't it? Then you can recognize it. And likewise the two paths. The path of khair, the path towards Jannah, and the path towards Jahannam. But at that stage, what do we say? At that stage we say, well, God told me to go in the path of evil. That's the path that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made for me. I'm a bad person and God made it, I'm going to be bad. That's total foolishness that ulama has mentioned. Because right now in this world whilst you're living, if someone says to you right now, you switch on the radio, you switch on the television, and the M1 is blocked. And they said you take the M6 to return back to your location. Only a foolish man wouldn't drive down the M1. Isn't it? You know you've been told clear cut, every single channel, every single radio station, everyone you're talking to is alerted that the M1 is blocked. Do not go down that path, there's severe obstacles and snow, whatever it may be. Take the other path, take another route. Only a foolish man will go down that path. Do you go down that path and say, this is qadr Allah? You don't do it in the dunya, do you? But when it comes to the akhirah, you travel on the wrong path of haram and say, this is qadr Allah. This is qadr of Allah, I'm doing haram, so I'm carrying on the path. But you don't do it in the dunya, but you use an excuse that when you're living your life of evil. Remember, every single one of us is this close to paradise as the shoelace on your right foot. That's how close every single one of us is to paradise. And every single one of us is as close to Jahannam as his left shoelace on his left shoe. That's how close we are. And we've been given that choice to try to take the path towards paradise and to rejoice in the bliss and the good things that we mentioned, to return back and to have that life of eternity. That is the real life of eternity, is the akhirah. How long are you going to live in this dunya for? That's why you find that when you return back to the akhirah, and you find that a ram will be bought, and people of Jahannam and people of paradise will recognize it. And even as a side point, if you go and study the ayat inside Surah Al-A'raf, deep ayat that you find talking about the ranks of the people in Jahannam and the people inside Jannah. And people in Jahannam ask them, throw down some food and drink upon us. Indeed, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made it haram upon you to throw down something down upon you. But when that ram comes, when that sheep comes, that animal comes, people of Jahannam will recognize it, and people of paradise will recognize it. And when it's sacrificed, it will be said, khuludun fala maut. Live in eternity in paradise, no death. And remember, in paradise, there's no death. There's no saliva. There's no urine. There's no defecation. There's no digesting of the food. The digesting of food just becomes a burp of musk. That's what it becomes. There's no ghil, there's no rancor, there's no ill feeling. The hearts are all together. That's the return into paradise. The shape and the body, the image of human being becomes more beautified, becomes magnified. And then the opposite. For people of Jahannam, khuludun fala maut. Live for eternity. There's no death, residing for eternity. Khalidina fiha abada. Eternity. Forever you're going to live inside Jahannam. Obviously we know as Muslims, alhamdulillah, that whoever dies upon the kalima or had some concept of Iman or Islam will eventually come out. But obviously we don't want any of our people to be there. We don't want any Muslim, because the Prophet Muhammad gave that parable as well. That my parable is like a person who ignites a fire in the hadith of Bukhari and stands there. You know that with fire, that the mosquitoes and the moth and etc., they come, insects come to the light. And he said that I'm trying to stop these insects and these mosquitoes and moths to come into the fire. I'm preventing them. But they overcome and they go into the fire. That is the parable of I'm stopping people from going into Jahannam. But people are overcoming the Prophet and going into Jahannam. So just like we began with, it, he said as a mercy, وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَاكَ إِلَّا رَحْمَةً لِلْعَالَمِينَ. Prophet has been sent as a mercy to the whole of mankind. And so obviously we want to spread that mercy, that if you follow the path of mercy, then inshallah you'll have the path of paradise, you'll have goodness inside this world, and you return back to that rejoicing. And we fear for ourselves and for every single individual when you begin to follow the path of disobedience, the path of sins, the path of a wicked, of a bad life, that could eventually, may Allah subhanahu forbid, all of us, any one of us, eventually going into Jahannam. That's what we want to avoid, and that was our message we want to deliver today, that the end of the soul, the end of the journey, will be one of these two maqamat, one of these two stations that one has to return back to, and we want to encourage that. We want to purify our soul, to become that pure soul. Ya ayyatuha an-nafsul mutma'inna, irji'i ila rabbiki radiyatan mardiyya, fadkhuli fi ibadi wadkhuli jannati. Oh, that content, good soul. Return back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Enter into amongst my servants, enter into my paradise. That's what we want. And you study the long hadith of Bara' ibn Azib talking about the leaving of the soul of this world becomes the final journey. And we want the final journey of all of us to be upon righteousness and consciousness and devotion towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَقُولُوا قَوْلِي هَذَا وَاسْتَغْفِرُ اللَّهِ لِي وَلَكُمْ وَلِجَمِيعِ الْمُسْلِمِينَ فَاسْتَغْفِرُوهُ إِنَّهُ هُوَ الْغَفُورُ الرَّحِيمُ سُبْحَانَكَ وَبِحَمْدِكَ أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك بارك الله فيكم